So I just want to give a couple reminders. The first is we are meeting live on Sunday nights now, so we will be here at 6 o'clock. And tonight we're back to full, what it was, music, time of prayer, time of the word, all of that. Everything that we used to do on Sunday nights, starting tonight, we're doing it all. So come and be a part. Come and join us. On Wednesday night, the adult Bible study, we had said that we were not going to be live streaming that anywhere. But one of the things that COVID has allowed us to do, or has forced us to do, is up our game when it comes to technology for online communication. And we acquired some presentation software that makes it a lot easier for us to live stream. So the Wednesday night Bible study is both live and live streamed. If you can't get here, you can watch us on our YouTube channel. But you really want to be here if you can, and you really want to be a part of it, because Sarah is doing an amazing job with what she's teaching as we look at the apologetic prayers in the book of Acts. And the stuff that you will learn is just amazing. And also remember, well, I don't want to go through everything, but if you guys noticed this morning when you came in, there was a video playing, an announcement video playing for 15 minutes before the service. We've got a loop going, and it will tell you everything that's going on that you need to know. But I want to highlight one more thing, ladies. Be here on Monday nights, 7 o'clock for the ladies' Bible study. There are 6 more weeks of it till the end of October. So come and be a part. I am hearing good things from that as well. So you want to be a part of it. And that's, I think that concludes our public service announcements for the day. We are working through the book of James. And I titled this sermon series because, that's the thing these days. Even if you are a exegetical preacher, an expository preacher, which is what I try to be, which means that you just work through the books instead of preaching topically, picking a topic and preaching about that. The in thing now is you're supposed to name your series that you're working on. It's not enough to just say, yeah, we're doing James. You got to have a title for it. And the title for the series that I have picked out is, as we work through James, is Who is Lord? Because the primary question that James deals with is, who is going to be Lord of your life? He talks about different things, and like today we're going to talk about trials. He talks about trials, but what he's really saying is, who is going to be Lord? When you face things, who is going to be Lord? Jesus or you? Who's it going to be? We're going to talk, and the question is the same. Who's people going to be governed? Who's going to be Lord of that? Will it be Jesus or will it be you? Everything that we look at, that's going to be the overarching question. Who is Lord? So that's why I titled this series, Who is Lord? Today, we're talking about trials. And let me just say, the battle is real. There is a real battle. Let's start by reading in James 1, verses 2 through 4. It says, "Count it all joy, my brothers, when you meet trials of various kinds. For you know that the testing of your faith produces steadfastness. And let steadfastness have its full effect, that you may be perfect and complete, lacking in nothing." Now, the word that James uses here, he says, "Consider it joy, my brothers, when you meet trials of various kinds." The word that he uses there is the word for testing. It means testing. So he's saying, consider it joy when you're tested my brothers. And is specifically testing by hardships. So, my brothers, when you meet hardships that test you, that try you to the core, consider it joy. Because remember who James was writing to. James wasn't writing to people living in North Oaks who have everything that they could possibly want. He wasn't writing to those people. He was writing to the Jews that were scattered. And as we looked at a couple weeks ago, the reason why they were being scattered is because they were being persecuted because of their testimony of Jesus. So he is saying to these people who are being persecuted, some of them even being put to death, consider it joy when these things happen to you. James is telling them to count it all joy. Now, I just want to throw something out there. If you find yourself in a situation where you're counseling someone and they're going through really, really, really hard times, probably your best approach to them is not going to be, well, consider it all joy, brother. What? That guy keeps coming up to you and punching you in the nose because you claim to be a Christian? Consider it all joy, my brother. Not the best approach, okay? James said what he said. He said to consider it all joy. He absolutely did say that. But we need to understand something. Unless you take the time to actually define joy, unless you take the time to help people understand what joy really is, then telling them to consider it joy when they're facing trials and persecutions is kind of like back in the 80s, there was this song by a guy named Bobby McFerrin. And the song was called Don't Worry, Be Happy. And he went through all of these things that could happen. You know, landlord says your rent is late. He may have to litigate. Don't worry, be happy. That's not what James is saying, and that's not what joy is. Joy isn't the idea of walking around with a stupid smile on your face all the time. It's not ignoring what's going on around you and being blissfully ignorant. It's not that at all. Joy is a calmness. The Greek word means calm delight. And it can only come from assurance of one thing, that Jesus is Lord and that God is in control. That's where joy comes from. Jesus is Lord and God is in control. We know people who go through hard times and deep hurts, and they just have a calmness about them. They just are okay. They just keep going like this. You know, most of us, our life is like this, and we up and down and up and down and up and down. But you know those people that are just like this, and they keep going. That's people who have figured out how to consider it joy. Those people. Because it's an assurance that God has it under control and he is working. And he's always working. Now, let's get into the meat of this. James said, when you meet. He didn't say if you meet trials of various kinds. He said, when you meet trials of various kinds. Doug, I got bad news. You're going to meet trials of various kinds. Sorry to be the bearer of that news, but that's just the way it is. You're going to meet trials of various kinds. But you're not alone. Renee and Leanne and Chris and Kathy and Bob and everybody else are going to meet trials of various kinds. I can't tell you what those trials will be. I can't tell you what's going to happen, but I can tell you that you will face trials. You absolutely will. And if you think that somehow God is giving you a pass on that, he's not. And if you believe somehow that if you have enough faith, they won't happen, that's wrong. You will meet trials. You will have trials. There are things that will happen. It just is the way it is. James lays out in this passage, he lays out a process for how the Christian life works. He said, you are tested. You face things. He had scriptural authority to base this on. He understood the Old Testament, and he understood things that God said in the Old Testament. So he had scriptural authority to stand on. God spoke through the prophet Zechariah in Zechariah 13, verse 9. And it says, and I will put this third into the fire and refine them as one refines silver and test them as gold is tested. They will call upon my name and I will answer them. I will say, they are my people, and they will say, the Lord is my God. He also had his friends' apostolic authority. He had apostolic authority, and his friend Peter had apostolic authority. And Peter, in 1 Peter 1, verses 6 and 7, said this, in this you rejoice, though now for a little while, if necessary, you have been grieved by various trials, so that the tested genuineness of your faith, more precious than gold that perishes though it is tested by fire, may be found to result in praise and glory and honor at the revelation of Jesus Christ. You will be tested. You absolutely will be tested. God tested Abraham. God tested Isaac. God tested Jacob. God tested Joseph. God tested Moses. God tested Joshua. God tested David. God tested Solomon. All through the Old Testament, God tested people. He tests everybody. He does. It's how he helps us to grow. Have you ever noticed that things don't grow if they're not really pushed? If they're not really tested? Briley, the adorable one, my granddaughter, if we would have never taken her out of her baby seat and put her on the floor, she would have never learned to crawl. If we would have never let her get close to things where she could pull herself up and stand, she never would have learned to walk. And now that she can walk, we kind of wish we had never taken her out of the baby seat. But that's beside the point. Some of you will get that a little bit later. But we have to be tested. We have to be pushed in order to grow. So we are all tested. Every one of us are going to be. Our faith is going to be tested. And we have two options. When we're tested, we have two options. You fail to stand. You fall. And then God goes back to the drawing board. God begins to work on you again. He begins to form you and mold you and make you. Because he's working on you. And he'll continue to work on you. You'll be tested again. Because I am positive that what Paul wrote in Philippians 1:6 is the truth. And I am sure of this, that he who began a good work in you will bring it to completion at the day of Jesus Christ. The good news is God doesn't stop working on us. He never looks at us and says, you knucklehead, you should have known better than that. I've tried to get you past this point so many times, I'm done, I'm walking away. God never says that. He never says that to us. He's always working on us. He always comes back, and he's always encouraging us, and he's always calling us forward. He's determined to complete the work. And, well, you know, he is God. You can walk away from him, but he's never going to walk away from you. The other option, when you're tested, so you can either fall or you can grow. You stand up. You grow stronger. You get more mature. You're able to stand up under more testing, and you'll be tested more. Remember school? The test that you took in first grade is a lot different than the test you took in 12th grade, because you grow through those tests. You continue to grow. Listen, there is no third option. There is no option where you get to say, I'll take a pass on the testing, Lord. Thanks, but no thanks. Let someone else do it. Let someone else have that blessing. I don't need it. I don't want it. Sorry, it doesn't work that way. James says, when you face testing, trials of various types. He doesn't say if. And the Bible is really clear on this because he's not the only one that said it. So how do you stand? What is it about those who stand that's different than those who fall? Why is it that we see some people that are just like this? Excuse me. And most people are like this. What's different about the people that are just like this? Consider it joy. That's what James wrote. When you face trials of various kinds, consider it joy. Now, invariably, like I talked about earlier, invariably when I talk about this, people start to say, I'm supposed to be happy about this stuff? I'm supposed to be happy that I'm going through something? Okay, well, in a sense, yes, you are. In a sense, you are supposed to be happy. Like I said, the word that James used is for joy means calm delight. So we're supposed to face trials with calm delight. How can we do that? How can I do that? How can I face that phone call that says that there's a sickness? How can I face that with a calm delight? How can I face that moment when the boss says we need to talk? And you see that he has a slip that's pink in his hand. How can I face that with calm delight? Face the idea that I'm going into what's left of the future insecure. How do I face that with calm delight? I'm supposed to be happy about that? How can we do that? It starts with understanding trials. Trials aren't there because God doesn't like us. Trials aren't there because I don't have enough good points on this side to offset the bad points on this side. Trials aren't there for any other reason than this. They're a refining process. They help us to grow. That's what they do. When gold is mined out of the ground, when they take it. We went to South Dakota 15 years ago now, I guess it was. And one of the things that we did was we went panning for gold in a stream. And when you get that gold, it's not pure. It's not, I have a ring on my finger and it's 24 karat gold. It's pure gold. It's been refined. But when you get gold out of the ground, it's not refined. It has all kinds of impurities in it. And those impurities make it weak. That's why you want the 24 karat gold, because it doesn't have any impurities in it. The 10 karat gold or the 16 karat gold or whatever other carats of gold that you can get is a weaker gold. You don't want that. So when they get the gold out of the ground, they have to smelt it. And smelting is a very interesting process. I looked to see, and now, today, because we have technology and science and all of that, stuff that they didn't know back then, or they didn't know how to apply back then, now they can heat up the gold and they can use a chemical process, which makes the process a lot